Hi, James here. Hope you're having a great day and welcome to another one of my videos. Now, today we're going to talk about some of the mysterious and confusing music theory words which confuse lots of guitar players, and I'm going to tell you exactly what they are. We're going to debunk some of the confusion together. Anyway, all this and more is covered in my book, Noble Music Theory for Guitarists, and if you're even slightly serious about really mastering some of the basic music theory topics which you need all the time to compose music, to improvise, to understand what's going on in the songs you play, then I would suggest you check this out. It's possibly the easiest, most less confusing sort of way to master what you need to know. And I think it covers about 95% of the music theory that most players need. You can take it beyond this, but this will give you a great foundation and you can stick it on your bookshelf and go through it at your own pace. So anyway, I would suggest you check that out if you want to brush up on your music theory and try and figure out what's going on. Certainly makes playing the guitar a lot easier. Now I'll be coming back to that in a minute, so I'm just going to put it there for a second. So, a few of these words which confuse a lot of guitar players, I just want to take you through them and we're just going to talk about what they are. Some of these you might know, some of them you may have heard and been confused about. So, word number one is the word tone, T-O-N-E. Now this can mean quite a few different things in music, but we're talking about it in terms of a distance between two notes. And it's very simple to understand. A tone is like going up 2 frets on the guitar. So if I had any note on the guitar, so I've got this D note here, and I want to move it up a tone, I would move it from the 5th fret up to the 7th fret. If I was moving it down a tone, I would move it from the 5th fret down to the 3rd fret. So a nice easy one to get started off on there, a tone, a distance of 2 frets on the guitar. A semitone, well, as the name suggests, is half of that. So a semitone is 1 fret. So if I was at the 3rd fret on the A string and I went down a semitone, I would move it down from the 3rd fret to the 2nd fret. And if I was going up a semitone, I would go from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret. So tones, semitones, tone is 2 frets, semitone is 1 fret. Not that confusing, but good to know about this because sometimes we're reading about some theory topic or reading a guitar lesson or something and someone just used a couple of these simple words, and if we're not sure what they mean, it can just throw us a little bit. So imagine someone says, I've got this bar chord here and I'm moving it up a tone. If you didn't know what that meant, it might just confuse you and you wouldn't know what to do. So they're the first 2 words. Now the next word is an important musical concept to understand. We're talking about intervals. So what is an interval? Well, it can seem quite confusing this, but it's actually very straightforward. I'm going to break it down, give you a really simple explanation. An interval is a way of labeling or describing the interval or the gap between 2 notes. Now let's say I had a major scale here. I'm going to play the A major scale. I'm going to start on the A and I'm just going to play up the first octave of the scale. Now you don't really need to understand or be able to play that scale pattern, but you can watch my fingers and figure it out there, I'm sure, if you want to. Now there are 7 notes in that scale. I'm going to start on the root. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or octave. And you heard how I numbered those notes. Well, that's basically how intervals work in a simple way. If we're talking about the 3rd note in the scale, we would call it the 3rd of A, because we're playing an A major scale. So the 3rd of A is the 3rd note in the A major scale. A, B, C sharp. And again, it doesn't matter if you don't know all these notes yet, I'm just really illustrating the point. So if I went A to the 2nd note in the scale, that would be called a second, or the proper word would be a major second. If I went from the A to the 3rd note in the scale, those 2 we would say are the interval of a 3rd, or a major 3rd. If I went to the 4th note in the scale, that would be the interval of a 4th, or a perfect 4th. You notice I'm using 2 words here. One is a kind of general, term for it. The other one is sort of the more classical term which you'll hear people use. So it's good to know about both of them. If I went from the root to the 5th note in the scale, I would have the 5th or the perfect 5th. To the 6th note of the scale would be the major 6th. The 7th would be the major 7th. And up to the root again, an octave up, would simply be, normally we'd just say that was the octave. So that's intervals, and what it means you can do is understand and describe and explain the gaps between notes. And that's important when we're learning about chords or learning about melodies or coming up with some new soloing ideas or anything. There's a lot of possible uses for that. The book goes into more detail on that and takes a little bit further, but that's the basic idea of what intervals are. So now you know what an interval is. It's a way of labeling or describing the gap, distance, or interval between two notes in a piece of music. Okay, the next word I'm going to talk about, pentatonic. A real favourite of guitar players here. We all play and use the major and minor pentatonic scales a lot. But what does pentatonic actually mean? Well, pent means 5. Think of a pentathlon or a pentagram or any of those sorts of things. All to do with 5, a pentangle. And tonic means note. So it's simply a 5-note scale. So if I was to play a G minor pentatonic scale, say, I've got 5 notes there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm back to the octave. Then it repeats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, back to the octave again. There's only 5 notes in that scale. And it doesn't matter which G minor pentatonic scale you're playing. Maybe it's this one up here. There's still only 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to the octave. So pentatonic, 5-note scale. And it's the same with major pentatonic. So if I played an A major pentatonic scale, it's only got 5 notes in it. So when we talk about pentatonics, and it all sounds like a lot of ancient Greek or something, which I believe it is, now you know really all it is a way of describing something as a 5-note scale. And a lot of scales have more than 5 notes, have 7 or some have 12 notes in them. So pentatonics, the 5-note scales, something we all use a lot as guitar players. So now you know what that means. Okay, and the next word is a key. Now this is a really big one. Understanding keys is a massively important topic. If we look at this table, which I've got in my book here, this gives you all the chords in every key. And what this means is that if you're writing a piece of music or trying to work a piece of music out, if you know the chords in that key, it makes it a lot easier, because normally a piece of music is in a certain key and it's using the chords that are in that key. Let's backtrack a tiny bit and say, what is a key? Well, a very simple definition of a key that I like to use is it's a family of 7 chords which belong together and sound good together. So it's a very simple explanation, but it's pretty much what it is. A family of 7 chords, okay? That's pretty much what a key is. Now, all those chords are like the offspring, or they all come from a certain major scale. So let's say we had an A major scale. In the key of A, we would have 7 chords, and they're based on the notes in the scale. What this means is that if we were playing in the key of A, the chords in the song we're playing in the key of A would probably be only the chords from the A major chord family. So it'd be all the different 7 chords in different combinations. And the melodies that maybe someone was singing or someone was playing would be using the notes in the A major scale. So really it's a way of grouping together music and saying it's in this key, we'll use these chords and the notes in this scale, and that's how we create our song. And it sounds quite formulaic, but that is how most songs are actually derived. Now the next one we're going to talk about is diatonic. D-I-A-T-O-N-I-C, diatonic. And this is related to keys. It's simply a way of saying in a key. So for example, we could look at this table here and say all these chords here are diatonic to these keys. So the key of C, these are the chords which are diatonic to the key of C. It means they belong in the key of C. So diatonic really means belonging to a set key. And that is a slightly confusing word which we hear. So now you know that if someone talks about diatonic chords, they're talking about the chords in a certain key. If someone's talking about a diatonic scale, they mean that they're talking about the scale that goes with that key. So diatonic, D-I-A-T-O-N-I-C, that's what that one means. Now there's a lot more words we could talk about which can be slightly confusing. I'll maybe make another one of these videos if that's going to help you, but you'll find a lot more of that, again, in my book. There's a link under this video. You don't have to buy it, but just click and check it out, because you may find it's just what you need if you want to brush up on some of this theory and a load of other stuff. Like I said earlier, gives you about 95% of the music theory you'll probably ever need to know. Buy it, stick it on your bookshelf. You can come back to it when you're ready. Whenever you want to brush up on your theory, it will always be there. That's a great way of doing it. So anyway, that's all from me. Thanks a lot for watching today. Hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you next time for more theory, more guitar tips. I'll see you then.